For example, if you have an income of $500, you spend 300, you save 200. That's a pretty simple equation, correct? Does everyone understand this? Yeah. Cool. So the question I want to ask you guys is, why do you want to save money? What's the goal? Anyone wants to answer? No. Okay. So for my case, I want to save money because I want to be financially free. Now, I'll get into the definition of being financially free in a bit, but I'll start with my personal finance 101. So welcome to class. Lower, low, lower, high, lower, low. Yeah. So step one in personal finance, ideally, you guys want to create an emergency fund for yourself. An emergency fund is usually a saving of at least 6 months worth of your salary or 6 months worth of your expenses. So let's say your salary is $500. You want to save at least $3,000. Now, why is that so important? It's because you need to create a cushion to bounce back on in case anything happens. For example, if you lose your job tomorrow, what money do you have to spend? If we go to war and you have no more income, what money do you have to spend? This is very important because when you create somewhat of a cushion, you at least know that whatever happens, I'm gonna stay alive for 6 months. I'm not gonna die tomorrow. Okay, this is very important. Um, Step two: once you understand that you have a cushion and you've created a cushion of at least 6 months of your salary for yourself, you want to be able to make more money. Now, I like to think that cutting down on your expenses can only do so much. You can always try to cut down on your expenses, but the real problem is mostly an income problem because maybe you're not making enough money to where you can live comfortably. So making more money will solve it. But how? Does anyone know how to make more money? This is a very simple solution. Basically, it means that to make more money, you have to learn to solve bigger problems. The bigger the problems you know how to solve, the more money you would be able to make. Sounds pretty simple, right? So I'll give you scenario one. So let's say Bob wants to buy a shoe. You have a shoe. You bought it for $100. You sell it to him for $150. Now you profit $50. That is a one-time transaction. You multiply that by 100 people, now you have $5,000. So boom, $5,000 amazing. Great. Scenario two, if you guys have a full-time job, which most of you guys probably have, after work, you're probably back from work like 5, 6 p.m. Later in the day. You start to find some freelance gigs. Let's say you're a video editor, and you can charge $20 per video. You can make 30 videos in a month. Now you multiply that, and you would get $600 in more money. This is basically the equation of how to make money. Once you guys figure that out, this is also another important step. So learning to let your money work for you. Now, does anyone understand what that means? Or or if you want to guess, go ahead. No? Okay, great. So basically, this is on the assumption that you guys probably have made some money. You probably have a lot of money right now. You don't know where to put it. You don't know where to spend it. You don't know what to do with it. You just have a lot of money. Now, I want you guys to understand one thing that is very important. Money saved in the bank actually loses purchasing power over time due to inflation. Thank you, Stepana, for that. So what I mean by that is that this is a very simple example. Okay, so assume that 10 years ago I could use won to buy 2 bicycle. Now in 2026, I can use the won to only buy 1. Basically meaning that your 4,000 reals loses purchasing power within a span of 10 years by at least 100%. Now, if you want to do the math, that's roughly 7.2% year over year, and that compounds. So within 10 years, that's roughly 100%. You could do the math if you want to. I double checked with ChatGPT already. Yeah. So, so this is another scenario. Let's say you have a lot of money saved up. Now you don't know what to do with it. Let's assume a few things. First of all, let's assume that inflation is at 3%. Your money invested in the bank, I mean, in the S&P. I don't know if you guys know the S&P, but the S&P is basically an index fund, which you can invest in, that generally I would say, gives you a average weighted interest of around 8% per year. This is very important because you want to look at the percentages and think, So if you have $100,000 invested into the S&P, you generate 8% interest per year on it, and you also have inflation at 3%. This basically means that you can now generate $5,000 a year. I mean, you can spend $5,000 a year without affecting the principal amount invested, meaning the $100,000 is just continuously going to grow, and you can spend $5,000 for free, which if you do the math, it's like $400 per month. Now that's okay, that's a good number, but is everyone clear on this? Do you guys understand what I'm trying to say here? Is anyone unsure about the math here? Do you not? If you don't understand anything, let me know. I can explain further. Everyone good? Okay. Cool. Now, let's do the math again. If you were to have $1 million invested, now this is a little bit of an exaggeration, but I also want you guys to look at it from the perspective of hopefully 10 years down the line, you guys have that amount of money. Let's say you have $1 million, you invest that money into the S&P. That usually would give you 8% interest on average, and inflation is at 3%. You can now spend $50,000 yearly without affecting the principal, which averages out to around $4,000 per month in money that you can spend without affecting the $1 million invested, meaning you have now generated $4,000 in free money. And I would think that in Cambodia, the amount of money that you need to actually live comfortably is around $2,000-3,000 a month without ever having to worry about money ever again. So you have basically created an infinite money glitch. So meaning you can now continuously spend for the rest of your life without ever affecting that $1 million ever again, which is called financial freedom in a sense. This is called FIRE. This is a investing term called FIRE, where people make $1 million, they quit their jobs, and then put it into the S&P, and now they have free money for the rest of their lives, which is cool. So there's other ways where you can invest your money in, but it also has a lot of risk behind it. So depending on your risk tolerance, you have a few options. One, you can put it into stocks, which the risk varies depending on what you invest in. If you invest in the S&P, that's roughly 8%. If you invest in Tesla or Nvidia, that's probably a little riskier. Fixed savings account in Cambodia is also relatively good. It's guaranteed. They give you roughly like, I don't know, 3 to 6% currently, but depending on the economy, it could go up to 8 to 10%, but you know, it's relatively safe. Crypto is a little risky. I wouldn't really recommend you guys to do it. But also, if you learn to invest in creating a business, it's also really great ROI, especially if you have low capital, meaning not a lot of money. So for example, if you start a business with $1,500, you multiply it by 100 within a year. That's also 150K, which is quite good. These are just some options for you guys to think about because when you start off with low capital, it's better for you to spend your time creating ways to generate more income rather than investing or saving. Because if you have $1,000, you multiply it by 8% a year, how long is it going to take you to get to $1 million? The math doesn't really make sense for you to want to invest that much. It's a good idea to save. I recommend you guys to save at least 6 months of your savings and then work on finding ways to generate more income. It's probably a better use of your time rather than thinking of investing. Because if you think if you're going to put $1,500 into the stock market or crypto and you're going to 100x it, it's very, very unlikely. And I don't want you guys to think about that perspective of making easy money. You really have to put in the work. Generally, I would advise you to start a business if you can. There's a lot of ways where you can start a business with really, really low capital. And I've also made videos about how you can start with really low capital. So if you guys haven't checked it out, go check it out.